In this last video, we will focus on how to narrow down and communicate our guaranteed standards. The third and final step of the prioritizing standards process begins with printing off the completed real template for each member of your team. So you'll remember that in video 2, we left off by having copied and pasted all of our identified prioritized standards into the real template. What you'll want to do now is to print a copy of these pages for each member of your group. Each team member will need their own copy so that they can individually evaluate whether the identified standards meet each criterion. A summary of each criterion is found on the first page of the real template. Take a few minutes to read and discuss what each criterion includes. Because we may not know everything that's assessed on state and national assessments, and because the Iowa assessments are currently undergoing a major overhaul, a total of 3 or 4 on the real criteria template will indicate that you have determined that that standard meets the real criteria. As such, standards that meet the real criteria should be prioritized over standards that do not. So individually, each teacher will apply these readiness, endurance, assessed, and leverage criterion to each of the standards that you've pasted into the document. If you believe that that standard meets that criterion, you would simply fill in this box with a 1 on your paper and pencil worksheet. And if you total 3, or 4, that standard you've determined meets the real criteria. Once each teacher has identified the standards they believe meet the real criteria, they will then input this information into sheet 2 of the prioritizing standards spreadsheet. So you'll come back here, just like in step 1, and simply fill in the box in your column with a 1 if you determined that standard met the real criteria. Just like in step 1 of the process, the spreadsheet will automatically fill in the last column with an X if a majority of teachers agree that that standard meets the real criteria. Once everyone has input their data into sheet 2 of the prioritizing standards spreadsheet, you will have a rough draft of your guaranteed standards. Discuss these standards as a team to make adjustments to your final draft of guaranteed standards. Consider whether the standard builds over time or is only addressed once. When throughout the year will this be taught? When will it be assessed? You probably don't want all of your guaranteed standards clumped at the beginning or at the end of the school year. Is this viable? Can we guarantee this many? Do we have room for more? There is not a set expectation of the total number of standards that a team should guarantee. Each team will have to determine what is viable or doable for them. Keep in mind that what you are committing to is to intervene on these guaranteed standards until all students demonstrate proficiency or until the year is over. As a team, once you have agreed on your guaranteed standards, the last step in the process is to update your parent syllabus to include these guaranteed standards. These guaranteed standards identify what a student will learn and be able to do as a result of completing your class. A template, an example parent syllabus was included in the email outlining the process, as well as in the collaborative teams folder right down here at the bottom. Feel free to use the template and or the example in any way that helps your team. The main goal is that you will identify what students will learn by including the standards that your team has agreed to guarantee. Updating your parent syllabus completes the prioritizing standards process.